The name's Miles, Daniel Miles, and this is a retro dunking of You Only Live Twice, arguably Sean Connery's worst James Bond film. Alright, so let's break it down. This film was written by legendary children's author Roald Dahl, and in exchange for being given the ability to write a James Bond film, he scrapped 99% of the source material. It still maintains the setting of Japan, and there is a small segment of scenes where Bond travels through Japan, but aside from that, this film has absolutely nothing to do with the source material in which Bond hunts Blofeld for the last time. In this one, Blofeld is attempting to trick the US and USSR into nuking each other by stealing space shuttles. Sean Connery did not like making this film. Whilst filming in Japan, he could not get a moment's peace. Even photographs of him on the lavatory regularly featured on the front page of Japanese newspapers, and that evidently comes across in the film. It is his worst performance. This is also a film in which we finally get to see Blofeld's face. Previously, he'd just been a midriff and a cat, which I actually quite liked. Unfortunately, he's revealed to be Donald Pleasance with a stupid scar on his face, completely destroying the menace and mystery that had been built up over the previous films. The plot itself doesn't really make much sense, and to be honest, it's actually a pretty poor Bond film. But what people remember about this film, it's not the mediocre story, or the fact that what people think about when they think about this film isn't the terrible space effects. It isn't the terrible backshots or the lackluster action. It's the volcano set. A set that's become so mixed in with our popular consciousness that anytime someone tries to do a spoof of a mad Bond villain or a mad villain, they are in a volcano layer. And you should think about that set. That set cost more than Dr. No. This is a set with a fully functioning monorail, an actual space shuttle that could take off, although not into orbit, obviously, hundreds of miles of steel cable and hundreds of tons of steel. You could see it from 3 miles away. No wonder the third act pretty much entirely takes place in this one enclosed location. Now this film is also famous for giving us Little Nelly, the gyrocopter that Bond uses for some horrifically backshot action sequences where he takes on Spectre helicopters. And again, it's really good. Unfortunately, these are just little pinpricks in a film that is weirdly paced. There's a plot point in this film that James Bond fakes his own death in the first 5 minutes in a bid to buy himself some breathing space so he can function more efficiently. Unfortunately, he then goes straight back into the field against these same villains with no disguise in any way, shape or form other than changing his name. It's completely pointless. Now this is the first film in which James Bond never sets foot in England. So this is the film in which M having offices all over the world is first aired, and I quite like it. I like the idea that the Secret Service has got these sort of little shadow bases all over the world. It's also one of the films in which the gadgets kind of start taking over the plot. Now this film, Bond is issued with a cigarette that has a small rocket in it. Now, opposed to what you might think, this was actually product placement. This was a real weapon that a weapons manufacturer paid a huge amount of money to be featured in a James Bond film. Unfortunately, it was highly expensive, highly ineffective, and could be stopped with a piece of cardboard, and as such the weapon wasn't in production for very long. However, I still think it's amazing that a weapons manufacturer thought putting it in a James Bond film would boost sales. But what do I know? I'm a film critic, not a weapons dealer. The Bond girls in this film are really badly dubbed. In fact, quite a few people are really badly dubbed in this film. Japan looks lovely, and it is worth noting that in the book, a good chunk of it is Bond just travelling through Japan as a tourist. Fleming started off as a travel writer, and this shows that he was actually really good at describing the places he visited. And a real affection for Japan does come through in the novel, and it's just completely lost in this film. Not for the first time, it's kind of flirty with almost going into science fiction, and I do feel that tighter control should have been put on Roald Dahl's script. On the whole, this is kind of a middling entry in the James Bond series. It's one that's on almost constantly on Saturday evenings or bank holidays in the UK, and it's one that I've seen more times than I can count. Unfortunately, watching it again, the special effects are mediocre, the plot meanders all over the place, I don't really believe it, and Connery's performance is just awful. This James Bond film is if nothing else. If nothing else is on, and normally there is nothing else on when James Bond is on a Sunday afternoon, check it out. Otherwise, I'm Daniel, this was a Donkey. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.